Welcome. I'm Dr. Kareem Tanous. In this short walkthrough, I'll show how fragility in the U.S. economy interacts with housing, investment, and long-run macro dynamics. These 9 charts summarize the core insights from my systems research pipeline. This first chart shows national housing activity over the last 2 decades. It sets the entire macro backdrop. You can clearly see the dramatic collapse during the financial crisis and the long, uneven recovery that followed. Housing is one of the most sensitive sectors to financial conditions, which makes it a powerful early indicator for everything that comes next. Here, we introduce the Fragility Index, our measure of underlying economic stress. It blends liquidity conditions, balance sheet pressure, and macro financial signals into one powerful composite. Notice how systemic stress spikes early in the sample and then settles into a more stable pattern. These swings are exactly what drive our downstream modeling and simulation work. Chart 3 shows the rolling 36-month effect of fragility on housing. This rolling window reveals how the relationship evolves over time, capturing every shift in the underlying dynamics. And the coefficient stays negative throughout, meaning fragility consistently suppresses housing activity. With a shorter 24-month window, the pattern remains remarkably consistent. That tells us the relationship isn't coming from any one sample length, it's genuinely persistent. Even at higher frequency, fragility stays a reliable drag on housing performance. And with a longer 48-month window, the effect still holds. Across every specification, fragility reliably predicts weaker housing performance. The long-run relationship stays intact, reinforcing just how robust the fragility channel really is. A computable general equilibrium model, or CGE, is a compact macroeconomic engine that keeps every market consistent. Goods, labor, capital, and trade all move together. It blends production functions, factor shares, and core accounting identities to compute a full economy-wide equilibrium. My dynamic CGE adds time. Capital accumulates, productivity shifts with fragility, and policy or trade channels can either absorb or amplify shocks. That structure lets us trace how a single stress event ripples through investment, output, and wages across many periods. This chart shows the baseline path generated by our dynamic CGE model. It projects output under current conditions and calibrated parameters, with no additional fragility shock applied. Think of it as the model's business-as-usual trajectory. Output rises steadily as capital accumulates and productivity stabilizes over time. Here we compare the baseline and shock scenarios. If the 2 lines appear identical or nearly identical, that usually means one of 3 things. The shock magnitude was effectively 0, the model's transmission parameters make the economy insensitive to that shock, or offsetting channels inside the model are absorbing it. In this case, the shock slows growth immediately, and the gap between the 2 paths widens over time. This chart shows capital accumulation under both scenarios. If the capital paths are identical, it means investment barely responds to fragility, either because the shock is small, investment sensitivity is low, or other channels in the model are offsetting the effect. But when the paths diverge, that's where the long-run growth and welfare implications emerge. In this case, the shock reduces investment, so capital grows more slowly than in the baseline. Finally, wages connect the macro dynamics back to households. If wages don't move under the shock, the model is telling us labor markets are insulated, maybe because labor supply is fixed or wage rigidities are binding. But if wages fall under the shock, that becomes a direct channel into household welfare and consumption, reinforcing the broader macro downturn. And because wages follow output in this framework, the shock leads to persistently lower wage growth across the entire horizon. Together, these 9 charts show how fragility shapes housing, investment, and long-run macro outcomes. Thank you for watching. I'm Dr. Kareem Tanous, broker owner, economist, and systems creator. If you'd like to learn more about this work or explore how fragility affects real estate and macro outcomes, feel free to connect.